dear friend Eva Longoria, and two of my longtime collaborators, Chiara Alegria Judes, who wrote the book for In the Heights, and Alex Lackamore, my musical collaborator on this and so many things, will tell you the true origin story of this show, and now this film that has meant so much to me. Listen to In the Heights, El Sueñito podcast starting June 2nd on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports, coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And them good old boys down south, I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond in London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, we love you in Canada and Africa, the Big C tribe. But there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south. You're the land of the free and the home of the brave and the beautiful. May the 21st, 2021. Round of Deportes. Bonjour, Big C. How's it going for you good old boys down south?
Charlton, just another warm summer day, Charlton, where last night in the NHL, the presumptive MVP of the league was ousted out of the playoffs up in Winnipeg last night, Charlton. But in the NBA, the presumptive MVP of the league was doing well in Denver. So once again, I want to thank our frontline healthcare workers, our nurses, doctors, and first responders. They're there to take care of everybody who's been bounced.
They do it all night long like the great Lionel Richie. I want to say today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. When you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you, as well as a fleet of Cadillac cars also all around the world. Just say Google or Alexa, play Big C Sports Podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear Welcome to the Show. I will introduce Big C as the Mystic. He'll do his thing from 3,000 miles away, and I really do appreciate the way things have grown with Big C Sports. You can follow Big C Sports on Spotify. You can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. You better have a smart TV, or you'll be sitting there looking at a still picture. Man, I love pausing. It's so hot in California. When I pause, I feel like that fire comes out my mouth. It's all fair in love and war, but I will never pause on our Veterans Crisis Hotline. They really are experienced helping veterans and their loved ones get help. Big C, why should everybody care?
Well, Charlton, to calm down that fire coming out of your mouth, there's a little thing called a toothbrush. But every day on our show, Charlton, we always address America's silent killer.
Yep.
It's called suicide.
Yeah.
And suicide happens, Charlton, because people are silent. People don't spend the time addressing other people about their issues, Charlton. Asking someone, are they okay?
Yeah.
We lose over 24 veterans a day to suicide, Charlton, because they don't have that support base to ask them if they're okay.
Yeah, that's
to
true.
ask them how they're doing, if they need anything, Charlton. Americans always need something, but when you think about a case of our veterans who have been harmed mentally, physically, and financially, and they look around, Charlton, and no one is asking them questions, and it seems like no one cares. It has led to too many suicides in this country.
Yeah.
We need to take care of all American citizens, Charlton, even our private citizens, because they've fallen under that umbrella threat of suicide, Charlton. So as we think about all the sporting events and everything that's going on, half of America's been vaccinated for COVID-19, Charlton. Let's think about our veterans. Let's find a way to open up a line of communication with these people. All these men and women who served this country and didn't ask for much in return, other than a little respect. Let's try giving it to them through conversation.
Very well said. It's all fair in love and war. 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. Or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255 and get our veterans some help. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net. You can definitely get us help for our veterans and their loved ones. Also want to say very happy to be affiliated with Valley Homes Weekly TV on Dish TV, DirecTV, AT&T Uverse, TV 53, home of the San Francisco Giants and the Say Hey Kid, as well as the home run king Barry Bonds. When you reach out to them, just tell them Big C sent you. Our goal is simple: recruit 10,000 real estate agents and brokers all over this great country, helping to put people back to work just like McDonald's does it. Car dealerships do it. sports teams are doing it. Even Amazon is putting people back to work. Big C, watch TV and real estate work for you. 800-772-8624. If you're looking for opportunities in real estate, go to bigcsports.pacwm.com. Most of our loans are underwritten by Rocket Mortgage, the #1 lender in the country on the wholesale side. I also want to say thank you to Xfinity Comcast TV and Comcast Spotlight for presenting Big C Sports to the universe. Just like God said in Genesis 1:3, let there be light. Open your cell phones and say play Big C Sports Podcast. You will see all of our apps pop up, and I really do appreciate the way things have grown with Big C Sports. My goodness, Big C, it is like a smorgasbord. You ever walk into a smorgasbord and you see people complaining that there's not enough food to eat like sports? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I don't go in there because people take their kids. Kids are have and they don't always wash their hands because they want to walk up to the smorgasbord bar and
touch
put
everything.
their hands on things.
Yeah, they want to walk up to the thing and put their hands on everything, laying hands on it, Big C. Sometimes, I mean, I don't go to smorgasbords much anymore, especially with the COVID out there. You don't know who's been breathing on what or touching anything and not washing their hands. But we do have a smorgasbord of sports, Big C, and all of the things about basketball, they're starting to tip off tonight, Big C. Also, baseball still swinging the bat. Football is a 24-hour-a-day, 7 days a week venture, and everybody loves that, Big C. But I want to start tonight. I know we have some NBA games that are already underway. But I heard, I think I heard a Putty Cat. I used to listen to, I think it was Bugs Bunny. He talks about hearing the Putty Cat all the time, Big C. I think I heard Aaron Rodgers, touchdown Aaron Rodgers, speak for the first time since everyone was saying that he's unhappy with being paid $200 million since played for the Green Bay Packers. Big C, your thoughts?
I mean, people want to make Aaron Rodgers a story. Aaron Rodgers is not a story, Charlton. I mean, as football season started, have they gone to minicamp yet? Have they had a preseason kickoff game? Has he refused to report to anything that's mandatory? I mean, there's been stories abound. It's like the wind blowing. It always happens.
Yeah, it always happens. It blows hot in California, Big C. It's all very left and war. I will say something. It's self-deprecating. It's a pretty sad person can't make fun of himself. I told you I eat a lot of collard greens. I eat a lot of garlic. And, of course, when you wear that mask, you smell everything that you've ever eaten in a collard greens or some salad mixed in your nuts.
Well, like I told you, toothbrush. Very simple, very affordable apparatus. Utilize it sometimes.
Well, toothbrush, mouthwash, mints, it all fair level war. But any person's lying if you can tell me that you can put that mask on top of your nose and you don't smell your breath a lot funkier than you thought it was, mixing your thoughts.
Well, Charlton, it's all about what you consume in your body and how clean and how dirty it is.
Yeah, I love consuming garlic in collard greens. It's all fair in level war. But back to the great touchdown, Aaron Rodgers. I think he'll be wherever they sign him. I mean, get him out of Green Bay. What I learned about wearing that mask, because see, it reveals funky breath. And I've yet to meet a person that doesn't have some funky breath, Big C. There are people that lie about it, or their breath is so bad it's burned their nostrils, Big C. But if he's funking up the locker room in Green Bay, he's had one Super Bowl appearance in 15 seasons. He's on the back nine of his football career as a golf metaphor. Ship him out, Big C, and get some fresh air or some fresh belly breath mints into the Green Bay Packer locker room, because he's not going to win another Super Bowl. He hasn't done it one time in 15 years. He's not going to play another 15 years, Big C. Your thoughts?
But who around in the organization has said that he's a cancer in the organization, Charlton? I mean, teams every year draft players at every position. When you draft an offensive tackle, should an offensive tackle say, I'm out of here? When you draft a wide receiver, should the wide receiver say, I'm out of here? When you draft the defensive end, should the defensive end say, I'm out of here?
Yeah.
This happens every year in the NFL. The media needs something to talk about because it's been a very boring offseason. So let's take the league's MVP and throw him under the bus. Aaron Rodgers not going anywhere other than Green Bay. They're not trading him. There's nobody out there with enough draft revenue to give up for him, Charlton. And they're not a fool. They're not going to dismantle this organization. They brought Jordan Love in to sit a minimum of 2 years, Charlton, and learn behind Aaron Rodgers, if not 3, just like he did behind Brett Favre. You think this organization hasn't been in this position before. They had Bart Starr. They did the same thing with him.
That's
when
right.
They drafted quarterbacks behind Bart Starr. Behind Brett Favre, they brought in a plethora of quarterbacks behind him. This is status quo for the organization. The media is so hungry to say, I told you so. You know, this is all they do is write the Aaron Rodgers story. But nobody will recant what they said.
Yeah, he did come on and say he threw a monkey wrench in their plans because he won the MVP. It's all fair and level war. Take that $200 million you've made and go have a happy life. If you're happy or not, it's all fair and level war. I'll also say there's another good old boy down in the state of Georgia by way of Alabama, minus a few paper bags, decided to sign with the Atlanta Falcons. And now they said they're tired of having a receiver that plays about half the season, but he still brings about 95 yards per game in receptions when they decide to throw in the ball, the great Julio Jones. Now, he did speak up. They often said if you want someone to know something, let the person speak for themselves. He did say he's tired of being in Atlanta and that he wants to get out. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I told you this a month ago that Julio Jones would be traded at the trade deadline. Nothing's going to happen until June rolls around, Charlton, because of salary cap casualties. Everybody knew that Julio Jones would be moving on because he's such a cap hit against the Atlanta Falcons. They cannot afford to keep him at full salary all season long.
Yeah, he's a solid player, Big C. And people talk about maybe his injuries. Everybody gets injured at times, Big C. But he's still, in my opinion, one of the top receivers when you can get 95 yards per game as a receiver, Big C, and a team that has they're going to say he's just still a marquee quarterback, and that's what they're going to have. But at the same time, if he's not happy, just like anybody else, you have a chance to speak up, speak your mind, and seek greener pastures, but it's not always greener on the other side of the fence, Big C. Your thoughts?
It would be greener for Julio regardless where he goes up because he would go to a playoff contender. He has that in his contract where he can dictate some of the teams that he would go to. And he would go to a team that's in the playoffs, something that Atlanta has not done in the past few years, Charlton.
Yeah.
And he, you know, when you think about him, Charlton, in the past decade in the NFL, he's been one of the top two productive wide receivers in the NFL.
Yeah.
The other one last year won a Super Bowl for the first time.
Yeah.
Second time in his career. So that's what, when you look at Julio, that's what he's looking to do, go to a playoff contender. I would love to see him in Kansas City.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you would love to see him in Kansas City, but wouldn't Kansas City have to give up quite a bit? They were trying to focus on their offensive line, Big C. Your thoughts?
Nobody will give up more than a second-round draft pick for Julio Jones. He's not going for an active roster player unless it's a role player.
Yeah.
But he's going to be traded for draft capital, Charlton. You think about Mohamed Sanu was traded a couple of years ago to New England out of Atlanta for a second-round draft pick. And Julio Jones will be the same thing, Charlton. If you're a playoff contending team and you're drafting in the last 25 slots in the NFL, you say you got the 25th, 27th pick in the NFL.
Yeah.
You think you're going to find a player in college as good as Julio Jones?
No.
Give up that damn draft pick, that first-round draft pick. Bring in Julio Jones.
Yeah.
You get 2 solid, productive years out of him at all-star caliber right off the bat.
You know, I remember the great Randy Moss when he played for that great offense in Minnesota. Later down the line, I guess they traded him, and he decided to come out and play for the Oakland Raiders at the time. Didn't have the best career with the Oakland Raiders, even though he was still a deep threat. But when he traded, they traded him over to the Jedi Knight Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots, and I believe that's the only time that Tom Brady had 50 touchdown passes when he had the great Randy Moss. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, the reason why they traded him to the Raiders because he wanted to trade him to a loser, not give him an opportunity to win. And that's what they traded him to, a loser out there on the West Coast, Charlton. Julio Jones has stated he wants to go to a playoff team, a team that can contend to get him to a potential Super Bowl once again in the latter part of his career. He won't go to a dismal team like the Raiders, Charlton. He'll go to a team that's drafting, you know, in the bottom 25 of the NFL.
Yeah. Well, there's a great coach that knows how to throw the ball to future Hall of Fame receivers. I think he would look great in a New England Patriots uniform, just my opinion. Even though it's a little bit cold, they don't have snow down in Georgia the way they have it up in the Northeast, Big C. But wherever he goes, I'm sure he's going to help the team get better and win more games. It's all fair and level war. I want to take some time to look at the NBA because NBA action is fantastic. A lot of people starting to creep their way into NBA stadiums, Big C, NBA arenas. There's a lot of players that are always trying to be part of a conversation about who's the GOAT, who's going to be the team or the player that brings in the best teammate and helps them get to the promised land. I want to take a look at a couple of players that are looking to reach the finals for the first time. I know LeBron James is in there every year, like kind of like a handshake. You shake somebody's hand every year. There's a lot of players trying to get there for the first time, and some have been MVP of the league. Just want to get your thoughts, Big C, the great Giannis Antetokounmpo. The Bucks are actually playing some really good basketball. You have a pair of key MVPs that every other important award and honor in his pocket, the great Giannis Antetokounmpo. He's only 26 years old, Big C, and unlike touchdown Aaron Rodgers in Milwaukee, his future is a lot more bright than maybe touchdown Aaron Rodgers for a guy coming out of Milwaukee. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I mean, they're both current MVPs. You think about both of them won it last year.
Yeah.
And when you look at what Giannis has done, Charlton, I mean, he's failed to make it to the finals thus far in his NBA career.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers has made it to the finals a few times, Charlton, at conference finals. Yeah, Giannis has never done it.
Yeah.
But right now, they're playing extreme basketball in Milwaukee. Giannis has to continue playing at the pace that he's played in the first two games and thumping down on the Miami Heat, Charlton, and those role players in Milwaukee are going to be very integral in getting them to the next level.
Yeah, really. Isn't that something, Big C? We have a small market that has the NFL and the NBA MVP, and nobody wants to go to Wisconsin. It's all fair level war. I want to bring it down to where it's hot. In fact, it's so hot, it's getting hot in here. I want to take off my clothes, Big C, but I'll do it on the inside. It's all fair level war. There are some beaches in California that are nude beaches. I did not know that until a friend told me about it. It's all fair level war. The great Chris Paul, down in Phoenix, Arizona, this is his 13th postseason, and he's reached the conference finals only one time, Big C, in 2018 with the Rockets. They were knocked out by the Golden State Warriors. And when you think about it, he had a hamstring issue, and tonight he's dealing with kind of a shoulder issue, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, he has a burner, Charlton, that he got in the game the other day, while they were beating up on the Lakers and stuff. But, yes, Chris Paul would love to get to that level in his career. I mean, he's been chasing for all this time and hasn't gotten there. It's hard to have a team that's the perfect scenario. Sometimes you put a team together in 1 year, it's fair. Other times it takes more.
Yeah.
But I think this is his best chance of getting there with the Phoenix Suns. They are the best team in the West.
Yeah, we're going to see if they're even the best team in their own state tonight. In fact, they all, because it's so hot in Phoenix, they all deserve their Big C burger. It is a tasty burger, and it comes with exotic meats. I'm sure it will go well with the Budweiser Zero. It has 0% alcohol, and it goes great with the Big C burger. We'll see who eats the Big C burger tonight. The Los Angeles Lakers, defending world champion Lakers, or the Phoenix Suns. At all fair and level war. I want to take you to the city of brotherly love, where they boo Santa Claus. So Trae Young shouldn't feel so bad that he got cussed out in New York, Big C. Even Santa has to go through some tough things in front of some bad crowds. The great Joel Embiid, the city of brotherly love, Philadelphia 76ers. There is no more dominant low post player in the NBA than the great Joel Embiid. He's blessed with lower body strength. He's been soccer trained with his footwork, and he's a better attitude now that he has the right doctor looking at his attitude. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, can he get over the tears this year, Charlton? I mean, Joel Embiid has never got his team to that point of playing for the Holy Grail. I mean, but it becomes teamwork in Philadelphia. He's been inconsistent at times, and that's what he has to correct in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's why they call the doctor in town. When you feel sick, go to the doctor. It's all fair and level war. Sometimes the doctor has some good things in that bag, Big C. And speaking of a doctor, the great Carmelo Anthony played at Syracuse. Portland Trailblazers has him now. A lot of people thought he was washed up. They said his toenails were too long, that he lost a step. He couldn't jump anymore, but he's been doing his thing this season. He's celebrated cracking the top 10 among NBA scoring leaders, Big C, in the entire career of the NBA, the great Carmelo Anthony, which is rarefied air and an automatic ticket to the Hall of Fame. But here's a good boy that also wants to do what he did at Syracuse. Can the Portland Trailblazers cut down the nets this year, Big C, your thoughts?
No, Charlton, that pipe dream is about to come to an end in Denver. It's going to go up in smoke.
Yeah, well, a lot of these go up in smoke in Denver, and sometime with 420, it goes up in smoke again and again and again. It's all fair in level war. I want to take you to also the city of brotherly love, Big C. It's nice when brothers love each other. You have the great Ben Simmons and the Philadelphia 76ers. He also has what the doctor ordered, much like the Philly co-star, the great Philly cheesesteak Embiid. Big C. Simmons is starting to generate traction and needed traction to reach the finals. This is a team that a lot of people pick to be in the Eastern Conference Finals, maybe even in the championship game, but there's a lot of good competition with Brooklyn. Also, Milwaukee realizing that they are who they want to be. The great Ben Simmons, is this his year to finally have the chance to say he's a champion? Big C, your thoughts?
Ben Simmons is inconsistent shooting. He couldn't knock down a free throw to save his life. That's going to be their Achilles heel in the playoffs, Dalton, that people are going to foul him intensely, and it's going to force Philly to lose.
Not so fast, my friend. We have another guy that people are going to try to foul. And oftentimes he gets the call, the great Nikola Jokic, Big C, the Denver Nuggets. Not the only thing that's I guess, relaxed in Denver, Big C. They still can't see them on TV. That's crazy. The fans in Denver supporting this team, and they can't see them on TV because of their deal with Comcast. Nikola Jokic, Denver Nuggets, winning the Kia MVP, which is certainly possible, comes at a price. Suddenly, the hoops world would be judging him on a higher plane and a stricter one in terms of championships, or at least trips to the promised land. He still has a guy by the name of Dollar Dame in front of him as they head back up to Portland, and sometimes it's a lot harder to get out of the smoke in Portland, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, I think he proved the Dollar Dame last night, who was the big dog in the house last night, and then stumping the Portland Trailblazers. And Nikola Jokic, they will move on to the next round of the playoffs. They found a way to shut down Dollar Dame in the second half. Just put a big body on him, and he can't shoot over anyone.
Well, I've heard that before, but 42 points. If that's shutting down, then everybody's shut down. It's all fair and level war. The great Paul George. My goodness, the great Paul George grew up in Southern California, I believe in the Lancaster area, went to Fresno State doing his thing in the San Joaquin Valley, and now the great Paul George, Big C, with the LA Clippers. George has heard all the slander by now, some of it warranted, about his playoff failures. His best previous chance to reach the NBA Finals, believe it or not, was with the Indiana Pacers, but that was in the early 2010s. And now that he's in Los Angeles, he's the second best player on his team. Will this be the year that Tyronn Lue works that magic and gets Paul George into being an NBA champion? Big C, your thoughts?
All that talk about Paul George is warranted. In the playoffs, he's like putting a popsicle on a hot sidewalk in California. He's just a meltdown.
Oh, my God. Those are big words for a guy that's considered an NBA all-star player. It's all fair and level war. I want to go back to a guy that you said they found a way to shut him down. They shut him down so well that he had 42 points in Denver, Big C, against all that bad foul calls that may go against him. The Portland Trailblazers, Dollar Dame, Damian Lillard. The Blazers, he wants to win a title in Portland. I don't think it's going to happen in Portland. That's just my opinion, just because of the way things are, Big C. Not even Clyde the White Drexler could win one in Portland, which is why Dollar Dame refused chances to leave town in the past. Maybe he'll regret that, Big C, the fact that Portland gave him a Supermax deal to stay, but he may be staying in a place where he's not going to get the Bill Walton returning anytime soon. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, a championship player would have continued the scoring tirade that they were on in the first half when David Nolan had 32 points, Charles. But in the second half, he was a no-show with only 10. That's not going to win you a championship.
It's all fair and love and war. Here's a guy, if you can't jump over a house and you can't jump over a building, what they say, sleeping over cars is possible, you can do that. The great Blake Griffin, now he's playing with the Brooklyn Nets. He was in LA for a time, Big C, and he has 8.5 seasons with the Clippers. He did not reach the conference finals. When you think about that, he was the marquee man for the Clippers in 3+ seasons with the Detroit Pistons. He made the playoffs only one time, had a solid career, has been kind to Griffin. A deep playoff run from the standpoint of trying to get there, he just hasn't been able to cut down the Nets. Is this the year that finally the Blake Griffin, with all the magic in the Brooklyn, and who would have thought that Brooklyn has more kind fans than the New York Knickerbockers, Big C? Is this his year to cut down the Nets, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, he will at least make it to the NBA Finals, Charlton, with the all-star roster that they have with the New Jersey Nets, Charlton, and the Brooklyn Nets, however you want to call them there in the NBA.
Brooklyn.
But he will see what the championship round feels like.
He may be able to see it, but this time he may be able to taste it. It's one thing to watch it on TV. It's another thing to taste that Big C burger with your own eyes. It's all fair and level. Well, the great Bradley Beal, Big C, the Washington Wizards, he is a wizard on the court at times, Big C. I'm not saying he's Curly Deal, but he's pretty darn close at times. Staying with the Wizards has made Beal very, very rich. He'll be 28 years old next season. So he's still in his prime, Big C, but must now decide if he's willing to spend the rest of his days in Washington with a team that's always in transition, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, that's all they're ever going to be is in transition. They will not compete for an NBA title.
It's all fair and love and war. I love NBA basketball, not as much as this guy's making the $200 million contract. They're even talking about the great Steph Curry, maybe, just maybe, signing for that $215 million max contract. It's all fair and love and war. He already has 3 championships out of 5. It's all fair and love and war. I want to just say, for everyone trying to be anything in life, you get up every morning, you have your plans written down, and you rise and shine. Like LeBron James said, it doesn't matter what people say. That's not in your shoes. The person in your shoes is the person that determines what happens in your life. WNBA schedule, tonight's matchups on Tuesday, May 25th, Washington at Indiana, Big C, Atlanta at Chicago, and then Connecticut. They're at the beautiful city of Seattle. I don't know if the fish is fresh, Big C, but it is easy to catch when it's not so cloudy or rainy, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, it's tough for the ladies to be on the highlight reel, Charlton, with all what's going on in the major sports in America when you think about the final, the NHL playoffs going on.
Yeah.
Major League Baseball is getting hot right now. The boys of summer are just swinging away. And the NBA playoffs are going. The WNBA season has a long way to go.
Yeah, it has a long way to go, and it's all fair and love and war. I wish all of the ladies nothing but the best. Before we come up on the Big C pause, I know so many people, when Muhammad Ali took a stand on not wanting to go across seas and murder people that did nothing wrong to him. He said, they've done nothing wrong to me, so why would I go into the draft? When the rich people who want to start the war, none of their kids went to the draft. They got deferments, or they just didn't go at all, Big C. They were protected. Everything that happens in life, you got to take a stand. And sometimes your stand is not popular by people that don't want you to say anything. They just say, just shut up. Just tell me the scores. Well, people can read their own scores. Law in sports, in the sports universe today, Big C, 1 year ago, the world saw with their own 2 eyes the murder of George Floyd in Minneapolis, Minnesota, in broad daylight. And they saw him being protected by fellow police officers, with each officer watching, just watching, Big C. Other than some people on Fox News, good people all around the world, they were outraged. I've seen, unfortunately, in California, where an animal like a dog had been hit and on the side of the road, and people come around to help that animal, to see if they can save it, Big C, even call animal rescue, and they'll come around and save that animal. And I know there were officers around, but it's a shame that officers stood by and watched Chauvin commit murder in broad daylight, and we still don't have a bill that they were trying to pass for George Floyd and that end the police immunity, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, what everybody witnessed a year ago in America is what black people have witnessed for decades in America. It's nothing new. It's just now we live in a cellular and electronic age where things are instant. You don't have to wait on a newsreel for something to be edited. The murder of George Floyd was horrific, but it has not stopped the murder of black men in the hands of people with badges and blue uniforms on, Charlton, in that year since. More and more every day we see that come out. And until the United States Senate, Charlton, passes the George Floyd Policing Act, it will continue, and it will never stop. So it comes down to that. Regardless of all what the world saw and what the world has seen, Charlton, and what the world thought of it, it is not stopped. Until you make it a law in the Senate, Charlton, of the United States, the George Floyd Policing Act, it will always continue.
Yeah, I know everything that has to happen. It has to happen in law. And this one thing, I know the great late Dr. Martin Luther King said that the moral arc of the universe is long and it bends towards justice. And I hope and pray that the people who can make a difference will have justice and liberty for all, but it has to come into a law. And oftentimes there are people who don't believe that good things will happen, don't need them being part of the conversation. You need good people who believe that good things can happen when you put it in the hand of the right people.
You have to understand how policing in America was formed, Charlton. Policing in America was created to curtail black people after slavery. That's how policing in America began. And when you think about when black officers were finally hired in America, Charlton, they could not police white people. They could only police black people. They could only arrest black people, Charlton. They could only charge and testify against black people. They could not testify against white people. And basically it's still the same today in America. When you think about policing, you don't see a copious amount of black police officers in white communities, but yet you see white police officers in black communities. It's an unlevel scale when it comes to justice. You should not have people policing a race that they know nothing about or involved in or don't live in those communities.
Yeah, and that's part of trying to treat black Americans the way they treated people when the Capitol was stormed, and not many people were even arrested or shot, Big C. They kind of let them go back to their regular lives. Before we get on the Big C pause, and in response to the George Floyd, a lot of people talking about what happened all over the world, not just the United States. I want to go back to Thomas Paine, published his anti-slavery tract. It was 1775. There were people that thought, oh, slavery's never going to end. Although Paine was not the first to advocate for the abolition of slavery in America, he was certainly one of the earliest and most influential. The essay, African Slavery in America, was written in 1774 and published March 8, 1775, when it appeared in Pennsylvania Journal and the Weekly Advertiser just a few weeks later. On April 14, 1775, it was the first anti-slavery society in America. It was formed in Philadelphia, and Paine was a founding member. Slavery was abolished in 1865 as all fair and level war. We're going to take what's called the Big C pause, also known as the Big C timeout. When we come back, I'm going to talk about some more things that are happening in the sports universe, where there's some NHL hockey on ice that could really use some ice, or the NBA. We'll cover that. We'll be back. In the words of the great Arnold Schwarzenegger, we'll be back. All right, we are back from the Big C pause, also known as the Big C timeout. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the #1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. There's so many apps, and I really do appreciate the way things are grown with Big C Sports. Big C, NHL hockey, them good old boys learn how to skate around on thin ice, Big C, with some razor blades at the bottom of their shoes. The great Kyle O'Connor, Big C, scored with 6:52 into the third overtime period, lifting the Winnipeg Jets to a first-round series sweep of the Edmonton Oilers, a 4-3 victory on Monday night. That's not nice to sweep your fellow countrymen, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, the NHL has to be uncomfortable with that sweep in that series when you got the best player in the NHL, Connor McDavid, who is going to win the league's most valuable player award once again, Charlton, for the third time in his short, illustrious career.
Yeah. That
the Edmonton Oilers are out of the playoffs. And so all the expectations that you had for the league's best player are not going to be seen from this point on.
Yeah, not from this point on. Unless you watch it on DVR, Big C. A lot of people have DVR, so they can watch it over and over and over again. It's all fair and level war, Big C. The NHL, they needed just 51 seconds of the fifth to stun the Penguins, Big C, with a major assist from Pittsburgh netminder Tristan Jarry. And Jerry's ill-advised clearing the tip early in the second overtime. It went right into New York's forward Josh Bailey, who raced it in to score the winner and give the Islanders a 3-2 victory in Game 5 of a 3-2 series lead in the best of 7. And only if the New York Knicks could play basketball on ice, Big C, it's stuck.
Well, you think about all the rattling that's going on in New York, Charlton, with all the teams that they have in the playoffs in basketball and hockey. This is an exciting time to be in the Big Apple, Charlton, and the Islanders delivered last night against those Penguins who love to slide around on their bellies on ice.
Yeah, it's amazing that Penguins can slide around in New York and not be eaten by some of those rats that roll around. A lot of those rats roll around in the city. There must be some brave Penguins, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, I don't know if you've ever seen an emperor penguin, Charlton, but they stand 4 feet tall.
I've seen a rat take down pit bulls, Big C. It's all fair in level war. You may not have seen those rats that roam around New York City, and they don't need security, unlike some athletes, Big C. It's all fair in level war. NHL, the great Spencer Knight, delivered it a huge way. The 20-year-old Knight stopped 36 shots. Mackenzie Weegar, Big C, and Patrick Horfquist each had a goal and an assist after the Panthers. They beat the Tampa Bay Lightning by the score of 4-1 Monday night in Game 5 of the Central Division Playoff Series. The Lightning, when you think about Lightning, get out, Big C. The Lightning, they still lead the best of 7 series 3-2. And they host Game 6 on Wednesday night, and they're asking for extra lightning. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, they expected to close out the Panthers, Charlton, in 5, but it's going to take 6. They're going to bring them back home and do that spanking.
I don't know if spanking is going to be a threat to people that live around lightning. It's all fair in love and war. I wish them nothing but the best, Big C. Morgan Riley scored the go-ahead goal in the second period. Jack Campbell made 28 saves in the Toronto Maple Leafs. They defeated the Montreal Canadiens by the score of 2-1 on Monday night to take a 2-1 lead in their first playoff series, Big C. And William Nylander, his third goal in as many games for Toronto, which hasn't won a playoff series. It's remarkable. It's been since 2004. They can go up 3-1 in Game 4, Big C. Your thoughts?
When you think about 2 of the original 6 hockey teams in the NHL, Charlton, battling it out for the Canadian part of the Stanley Cup, Charlton, it's great to see the Habs and the Maple Leafs go at it. And Toronto has been in a long drought trying to get to the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
It would be great to see them in it.
Yeah, they're trying to get to that Stanley Cup. It's all fair in love and war, Big C. NHL, the Minnesota Wild, they scored 4 goals in the first 4 games of their opening round playoff tilt with the Las Vegas Golden Knights and fell behind 3-1 in the series. On Monday night, they matched that to start off elimination, Big C. Despite having only 14 shots on goal in Game 5, Cam Talbot made 37 saves, and the Wild beat the Golden Knights 4-2 in front of 12,156 Rockets fans, Big C. The largest crowd in Las Vegas this season, and compared to the crowd at Madison Square Garden, it was like church, Big C. They were so nice, Big C.
Well, Charlton, you got to make those shots on goal count, and that's what the Minnesota Wild did, Charlton. They did not waste energy in attacking the net.
Yeah, they did not waste energy in attacking. It's all fair and level war, but I really do appreciate a crowd that can show sportsmanship, as we're all taught, and maybe the good people. When New York Knicks let their fans in to see the Knicks get beaten by the Atlanta Hawks, I thought that maybe Rikers Island they bought tickets for Rikers Island to come over and cheer for the Knicks. It's all fair and level war. I think the people of Atlanta are a little bit, maybe it's what they expected, but it's all fair and level war, Big C. Speaking of fans, speaking of rowdy fans that play, and they play with their heart, mind, body, and soul, even though they're not on the floor, Big C. When the Milwaukee Bucks conducted a roster makeover in the wake of an early playoff exit, the addition of Byron Forbes didn't nearly cost as much as most people would have thought it would have, Big C. Some other moves look pretty good right now. Forbes made 3-pointers. It was 6 3-pointers in his way to 22 points. The Milwaukee Bucks routed the Miami Heat, Big C, and not many people expected that coming, that they would rout the Heat. It was 132-98 on Monday night for a 2-0 lead. In their first round playoff series, the 27-year-old Forbes spent the first 4 seasons with the San Antonio Spurs, Big C, but he signed with Milwaukee in free agency in November, and it's all fair from level, Big C, inside.
Well, when you think about how well the Milwaukee Bucks played last night against the Miami Heat, Charlton, they came out hot off the bench, and they were knocking down threes. They had an insurmountable lead at halftime, Charlton, that, the Miami Heat could not dig themselves out of. And they looked like a very lackluster team last night playing against the Bucks.
Yeah, I thought that Buck said, "You're not going to barbecue me. I've seen what happened to my kids, folks." they say animals don't remember. They've seen Bucks being set on a barbecue grill before, Big C. They were saying, "You're not going to get me on that heat of a barbecue grill." It's all fair level war. Milwaukee shot 22 of 53 from 3-point range, including 15 of 29 in the first half, and never trailed while leading by as many as 36 points, Big C. The Bucks 22-3. Think about that. 22 3-pointers is more than what Portland did when they played against Denver. The 3-pointers were their highest total ever in an NBA playoff game, Big C. Your thoughts?
Yeah, but they weren't like Portland living by the 3-point shot only, Charlton. They were able to get some twos. They got people involved. They had balanced scoring last night. When you think about Middleton getting his, you get Holiday getting his points, as well as Giannis delivering in the clutch.
Yeah, Giannis is doing his thing. He played like the NBA MVP 2 years ago. Lately, this year, maybe people got voter fatigue, as the great Giannis talked about voter fatigue, but he's starting to play like an MVP, and he's actually affecting people around him, and I really do like what I'm seeing out of that young man. It's all fan level war, Big C. So no talk at all. You ever hear one as quiet as a church mouse in cotton fields or whatever you say, Big C? Just as much more physical mentality. Jokic scored 38 points. but he wasn't even the leading scorer in the game to overcome a three-point shooting barrage from the great Damian Lillard, Big C, Dollar Dame, and the Denver Nuggets. Even the first-round series, as I said they would, they got all the calls to help that happen. They beat the Portland Trail Blazers 128-109 on Monday night. It was a chippy game, too, if you call chippy, nice chippy, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, it was chippy. It was Portland trying to stay into it. Yes, Dollar Dame can score points, but when he's doing that, Charlton, a lot of times he'll shoot his teammates out of the game because they'll get out of the ebb and flow of what's going on.
Yeah, it's all fair in love and war. He just needs his teammates to play like he does. Lillard dropped 32 of his 42 points in the first half. His 8 3-pointers, Big C, before intermission, is tied an NBA playoff record for most in the half. Dollar Dame finished with 9 of 16 from three-point range. A change of plans at halftime helped slow him a little bit, and Denver put on a 6'9" guard named by the name of Aaron Gordon, and Lillard stands about 6'2", and maybe some people think that affected him, but I saw him do his things over a Paul George back in the day, and I'm sure Lillard's going to get back to Portland, where they have smoke that comes from wood as opposed to the other kind in Denver. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, back in the day versus last night, Charlton, where he was limited to just one three-point shot in the second half and 7 points other than that, Charlton, Gordon did his job. He shut Leonard down. What he did years ago is not what he can do tonight, against Denver. Denver right now is on the swing, and they're going to take this series, Charlton, in 6.
Not so fast, my friend. Dollar Dame has a lot to say about that. We'll see what happens. Tonight, Big C, who's the great Rod Stewart? He sang a song. He said, "Tonight's the night, I'm going to be all right." And that's what they're singing a lot of teams in the NBA. The great Rod Stewart, tonight, Big C. The Brooklyn Nets, they host the Boston Celtics in the Eastern Conference first round, where they 1-0 lead in the series. And all the fans in Boston are singing, "Tonight's the night." Well, we'll see what they're singing to, Big C. The Nets won the last matchup. It was 104-93. The great Kevin Durant dropped 32 points to lead Brooklyn to the victory, and the great Jason Tatum recorded 22 points for the loss in Boston. But the Boston fans, they're singing loud enough to hear it in Brooklyn. "Tonight's the night." The night for what, Big C? Your thoughts?
Tonight is the night the halfway to the broom coming out. The Brooklyn Nets will switch this series against the Boston Celtics. They just don't have enough manpower. They got too many injuries, and when Jason Tatum, your leading scorer, is only knocking down 22 Charlton, you're going to be out of this round.
Yeah, well, there's rumor that the great Larry Bird's been seen around Brooklyn, and he's camouflaged. It's all fair in love and war. Even Kevin McHale was seen doing some extra push-ups. It's all fair in love and war. Big C, tonight's the night. The great Rod Stewart, Big C. NBA basketball, the Dallas Mavericks, they visit the City of Angels, Los Angeles, California. At the Staples Center, the Clippers in the Western Conference first round, where they 1-0 lead in the series. The great Luka Doncic was doing his thing. The Mavericks won last meeting, 113-103. But the great Luka Doncic, Big C, he dropped in 31 points, helping lead Dallas to the win. The great Kawhi Leonard, known as the Claw, he recorded 26 points in the defeat for L.A. And if you can beat Tyronn Lue back-to-back in L.A., then you got to tip your cap. But sometimes you just need a little bit of home cooking, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Dallas has home court advantage now. They walked into Clippers' backyard and put a foot down on the Clippers, Charlton. Paul George was once again a non-show in the playoffs. Kawhi Leonard got what he normally gets, but he didn't go above and beyond, and you didn't get much as a total from the Clippers.
Yeah, it's all fair and love and war. It's hard to beat a team twice on the road, but we will see what happens. It's happened before, but we'll see if the boys from L.A., if they really want to man up or if they want to watch a team from Texas. You know you're going to get robbed in Texas. You may as well try to cover in California. Big C down in Phoenix, Arizona. You know, L.A. is the show motion picture capital of the world. In fact, it's a motion picture capital of the universe. Some great entertainers. In words, it has it that the great Rod Stewart was singing, the great LeBron James playing in the stereo, "Tonight's the night." Down in Phoenix, Big C. And Anthony Davis, he was also heard playing, "Tonight's the night." Hopefully tonight's the night for the LA Lakers. We'll see if Phoenix has any other plans. The Phoenix Suns, they host the Los Angeles Lakers in the Western Conference first round, where they 1-0 series lead, Big C. It's incredible. The Suns had a great crowd. The Suns won their previous matchup 99-90. The great Devin Booker was doing his thing, dropping 34 points. He led Phoenix in their rising and a victory over LeBron James, who only had 18 points in the loss for the Los Angeles Lakers. And Anthony Davis has to remember, when they took his height, he's about 6'10", not 6 feet. He needs to play in the paint. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you had LeBron James and Anthony Davis combined for 31 points, Charlton, in the last outing against Phoenix. And they got a little scorched under the sunshine, Charlton. But, one of those players is going to have to score at least 31 by themselves if they expect to beat the Phoenix Suns, Charlton, or the Lake will be toast.
Yeah, sometimes people say the Lake is going to be toast. They've been calling for toast over the last 17 championships. Whenever you're on the top of the mountain, everybody's looking up. The Lakers don't have to look up to see the Phoenix Suns. They just got to play better. But you got to do it on the court, and we're going to see. This is what I love about basketball. It's not about the people in the media or us saying who's going to do what. It's about the guy standing in that man's shoes. That's what the great LeBron James always talks about. It's the man standing in the shoes that will decide who wins that game tonight. It's also about coaching, Big C. You have Williams coaching. As a young man, a lot of people didn't even want him to have that job. Win or lose, Phoenix is really surprising a lot of people. They've had a total turnaround from last year, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, most people in the media didn't want Vogel to have the job in Los Angeles either, Charlton. Monty Williams has done a historical job in Phoenix, 2+ 15-year add-ons as a season total, Charlton, with the Phoenix Suns. No other coach has ever done that in NBA history.
Yeah.
And so he's taken the leadership of those young men, Charlton, to new heights.
Yeah, he's taking them to new heights. And as the great Ryan Stewart saying, tonight's the night for a lot of people. It's all fair and level word. Tuesday, May 25th, the NBA schedule is set, Big C. I know some games are already underway, and I don't even like to talk about what's happened in the game, but people can look and see, is Boston going to have that song come true by the great Rod Stewart tonight? We'll see what happens with Los Angeles and also Dallas, and especially the Lakers game and their matchup with the Phoenix Suns. The Clippers, of course, they have a lot of things to work on. It's all fair and level war. I want to take it to a sport that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, Big C, nobody can say I'm not interested in football. I see whether it's football season or basketball season or baseball season or hockey season or soccer or boxing or MMA, no matter what it is, football is always king and at the top of the mind. When you look at college football, in the college football universe, Big C, 100 days out as we count down to week 1 of the 2021 college football season, you have quarterback turnovers at Alabama. I mean, it doesn't matter. Nick Saban has them turning over every year, Big C. You have a turnover in Clemson, even though DJ Uiagalelei played last year in the game against Notre Dame at Notre Dame. You have Ian Book out of Notre Dame, Big C. Ohio State has Fields gone, and Max gone out of Alabama. These teams are traditionally in the national championship hunt, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you talk about the superiority of college football. These teams are consistently there, Charlton, because they're consistently good. You look at Nick Saban, most likely the greatest coach in college football history, and Dabo Swinney is nipping at his coattails. And so those teams are perennial. You look at Ryan Day up at Ohio State, Charlton. He's only lost one game during the season since he took over as head coach.
Yeah, it's amazing. They just reload, Big C. The great Tom Osborne used to do that at Nebraska, as well as Joe Paterno at Penn State, and even the great Pete Carroll at USC. They would just reload. It's all fair and level war. But when you think about it, the consolidation of power in college football has made it easier for Alabama, Clemson, and Ohio State as playoff favorites. I think that's why they fight against expanding the playoffs, because they already had that collusion that gets them in, Big C, especially now as they rank as the 3 winningest programs in college football playoffs of sorts history, combining 17 or 21 wins from the 7 years of the format. But if you're always invited to the dance and you don't expand it, is of course you're going to be one of the teams that win. You're always one of the 3 invited almost every year, Big C. Your thoughts?
You know, one of the advantages, Charlton, of going undefeated during the regular season is you don't have to debate that you need an expansion to get in. You don't need them to add extra games because you don't win all of your games during the regular season. It's always those people on the outside that can't dominate during the regular season saying we need an excuse to get to the postseason.
Well, so much for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They had one of the worst records in the NFL. They had to go on the road to win the Super Bowl. With your thinking, Big C, they would not have been invited to the dance because they did not have the best record. You got to let them play like the pros do.
They're not even the first wild card team in the NFL.
Raiders did it too.
The Super Bowl.
Well,
so that's happened many times because the NFL has had that format. But you only have 32 teams in the NFL. You have a 132 Division I college football team.
Yeah, but if the NFL took your advice, they would only invite undefeated teams or just 3 teams to go every other year. It's all fair and level war, Big C. You got to make it fair for the conference champions. If not, it's just more shenanigans, and some people love the shenanigans, Big C. Fans are back. A full stadium adds an element that cannot be ignored, especially when college athletes are the participants. It's not just having fans to cheer and to make an impact on the game. It's the tailgating that a lot of people love, the tailgating as much as going to the game and watching the game, because they get to have a libation and some barbecue chicken and the Big C burger with a lot of their friends, Big C. But that makes a big impact on the game. The family atmosphere that's brought to campus with the return of the alumni and the general feeling of investments that fans get from being close to the action. And that's what's great also about college football, Big C. Your thoughts?
Oh, Charlton, if you ever come to a tailgate down in the South, Charlton, it'll be like going inside the stadium out west. There's as many fans outside of the tailgate in the South, Charlton, as you get inside a Pac-12 stadium. But that's the heart of college football, Charlton, is that everybody getting together and making it a party atmosphere before and after the game.
Yeah, before and after the game. And obviously, you haven't seen the Pac-12 lately because you guys are usually asleep from that homemade moonshine. So you don't stay up late enough to see their games. What, they have games on the Pac-12? It's all fair and level war. Every CFP national champion has started the season in the top 10 of the preseason Associated Press top 25. But what they should do, with Big C's thinking, is just have the top 4 teams in the country because they want to keep everybody else out. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, they do have the top 4, Charlton, when it comes down to the playoffs every year. I mean, they've earned that spot of getting to the top 4, Charlton. That's what you play the regular season for. I mean, I understand what you're saying as far as expanding, but why even have the regular season if you're going to keep expanding? Say, okay, we're going to invite X number of teams in. Just start the season with the playoffs, then have the regular season.
Yeah, let's tell the NBA, let's get 4 teams and let them play for a championship. Who needs to have more competition? I hate competition. What if somebody gets hurt?
I guess college basketball should tell the NBA that they need to play 2 times around to get a championship, because there's 68 teams in college basketball championship. So I guess with the 30 NBA teams, you need to win it one round and then come back and play that round again.
Yeah, like I'm saying, let's just have it your way. Only invite 4 teams to compete for the NBA championship. Who needs all these extra games? Someone might beat a champion or a team that's supposed to be a champion. It's all fair level work.
I'm saying that about college basketball and the NBA. You can't compare football and basketball. I believe there's 16 games up until this season in the NFL. There's 82 games prior to this season in the NBA. Go out and play 82 games in the NFL and see who's standing at the end. You might only have 2 teams that you play.
Well, maybe they'll take your advice, like I said, so nobody gets hurt. Just invite 4 teams every year to play for the NFL championship, because that's what Big C says is fair. He doesn't want all those other players out there. Someone might get hurt. It's all fair and level war. That's the thing about you Southern folks, Big C. You don't want them to count all the votes. When they count all the votes, you say they're cheating. And when someone gets a chance to compete for a championship, you say, well, that's not fair. What about the guys who want to get in?
How many players did the Kansas City Chiefs get injured last year in the playoffs, Charlton, that were not able to participate at 100% in the Super Bowl?
Well, you can look at any sport, and every team has players that get hurt.
I guess they got none injured.
Well, maybe you should look a little bit further. Name me a team that doesn't have an injury in the NFL, Big C. Your thoughts?
Everybody is injured in the NFL if you play a game, Charlton. You cannot come out of an NFL game without injury. But I'll go back to that point again. How many players did the Kansas City Chiefs have injured in the playoffs last year heading to the Super Bowl?
And I'll go with the same point of your rhetorical question. How many teams in the NFL did not have any injuries, Big C? Your thoughts?
But I answered that question for you. I said every team in the NFL had injuries. If you play one game in the NFL, you cannot come out healthy, Charlton. That's just how the game is played. But I'll go back to my question again that you'll answer again rhetorically. How many players did the Kansas City Chiefs have injured last year heading into the Super Bowl?
Well, I think I've already answered that question for all 32 teams. It's all fair level word, Big C. But I will touch on Major League Baseball, where sometimes they have guys that actually pitch when they have a sore shoulder, Big C. St. Louis Cardinals, they are 26-21. They are first in the National League Central versus the Chicago White Sox with a great Tony La Russa that we talked about yesterday. And when the game stands tall, he was part of that book by the great Neil Hayes on De La Salle high school football in the Bay Area. But think about it, Big C. They're 27-19. They're first in the AL Central. I don't know if he's the oldest manager in Major League Baseball, but he has a lot of tricks up his sleeve, and sometimes his teammate doesn't even appreciate the secret thoughts.
Well, Charlton has a lot of drinks up his sleeve, like you said.
Who doesn't?
The Roofers done a marvelous job with the Chicago White Sox. This is a talent-laden lineup, Charlton, of offense and defense. They have excellent pitching, and they're getting the job done. And there's really no pressure on them because they're not, as far as the media mainstream, on the top of everybody's radar.
Yeah, he's done his thing. He was doing his thing for the Oakland A's. He was doing his thing for the St. Louis Cardinals. And now you have the Chicago White Sox, which is the second favorite baseball team in the state of Illinois, Big C. And they're going to be a playoff team this year. It's all fair in Level War. But they'll never overtake the Cubs as Chicago's favorite team. It's all fair in Level War. When you look at the Cardinals, Jack Flaherty, he's 8-0. He has a 2.53 ERA, Big C. He has 55 strikeouts. He's throwing laser beams, Big C. Your thoughts?
I mean, they've been delivering in Chicago. The pitching staff has stayed healthy. They've thrown a no-hitter this year with that pitching staff, Charlton. So, I mean, everybody on the north side of Chicago is elated about baseball.
Yeah, they're all elated about baseball, Big C. The Chicago White Sox, Lucas Gallardo, Big C, he's 3-4, has a 4.35 ERA, not that impressive, 1.9, but he has 61 strikeouts, which is also making up for the ERA, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, he's bringing heat. I mean, he's been almost unhittable when you think about how well he's done this year, Charlton. But these young men have just been phenomenal ever since they've known each other.
Yeah, ever since they've known each other, it's all fair and level. Where I want to bring you to some guys from California, Southern California, Big C. It's called Harvard Westlake High School. It's in Studio City, Southern California, Southern California, Los Angeles Basin. Baseball team that included Lucas Gallardo, Max Fried, Big C, and Jack Flaherty. Where their pitching coach was current White Sox pitching coach Elin Katz, Big C. He was a sophomore when two of his high school, think about this, his high school teammates and fellow pitchers Jake Flaherty of the Chicago White Sox, Max Fried of the Atlanta Braves, and Lucas Gallardo, Big C, of the St. Louis Cardinals, they were all drafted in the first round of Major League Baseball draft, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, you know, you think about this high school team, Charlton, down there in California, Southern California. Who in the hell ever beat them? You got 3 first-round draft picks on a high school pitching staff.
Yeah.
This is a phenomenal baseball team, Charlton, when you think about it. This is the greatest high school pitching staff ever assembled in America, Charlton, and all of them are pitching in the major leagues, and 2 of them have had no-hitters this baseball season, Charlton, and 2 of them are going to be facing each other tonight, Charlton, with their high school coaches, the pitching coach for the White Sox in this matchup.
Yeah, it's amazing when you have so much talent, Big C, at the high school level all over this great country. It's a sport that people can play. As I learned playing Little League Baseball, all you got to do is have a baseball bat and a ball. You don't even need a glove sometimes, and you can go out and swing the bat. It's all fair in Level War. Speaking of swinging the bat, the pitch, hit deep, right field, back to the wall, home run, Big C. We got a home run. The crowd goes crazy. Tonight's matchup, Tuesday, May 25th, Chicago Cubs at Pittsburgh, Big C. When you think about it, that should be a good game. Philadelphia at the Miami Marlins, Cincinnati at the Washington Nationals, the Toronto Blue Jays at the New York Yankees. Will the New York fans not be as I guess, needing their mouths washed out with soap as the Knicks fans? Big C.
Well, Charlton, the big thing that's going on in New York right now is basketball and hockey, and that's where all the fans have directed their attention to, because you got something that's been going on in this city that they have not seen for decades, Charlton, having 3 teams competing for NBA and NHL titles.
It's all fair in the boroughs of New York City, Big C. Cleveland's at Detroit, Colorado Rockies at the New York Mets, Kansas City Royals at Tampa Bay, and I'm telling you, Big C, the Atlanta Braves, that Acuna Jr., he's hitting like he's Hank Aaron. I know maybe I'm not trying to blow his horn too much, but he got a grand slam the other day. We were just talking about will he go deep, Big C. He's up for Player of the Year, even if he falls off a little bit. But have you seen a young man that can hit the bat with the velocity that maybe the great Barry Bonds used to, Big C? Your thoughts?
Oh, yeah, Charlton. I mean, this is the wave of baseball players that we have now. Vlad Guerrero Jr., when you think about him, has the best home statistics right now of any young slugger in the major league. Raul Acuna Jr. is phenomenal down in Atlanta.
Yeah.
I mean, he's playing at an all-star MVP pace. Both of those players are. It's just you don't see enough of these young players on television, and their greatness is going to be missed by a lot of people because baseball is taking second fiddle right now to the NBA and NHL playoffs and a lot of football talk.
Yeah, he's must-see TV, Big C. You have the Baltimore Orioles at the Minnesota Twins, San Diego Padres with Tatis, Big C, at the Milwaukee Brewers, Los Angeles Dodgers. The defending Los Angeles Dodgers are in Houston, and rumor has it they're seeing a lot of flash bulbs going off at the stadium. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, the Dodgers probably brought some Dodger dogs along with the Charlton to pass out to the Houston fans, try to make it a little more hospitable.
Yeah, they try to make it a little bit more hospitable. It's always going to be something that people talk about. Like they say down in Texas, if you're not cheating, you're not trying. It's like going to a game at Madison Square Garden and not hearing some profanity. A lot of people in New York, that's how they raise their kids. They raise them to cuss people out. It's all fair level war. St. Louis at the Chicago White Sox, Texas at the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, Seattle at the Oakland A's here in the Bay Area, and the San Francisco Giants down in the desert, Big C, at the Arizona Diamondbacks, and it's all fair and level war. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, baseball is having a good time right now. The boys of summer on some hot days out there throwing and swinging the bat, Charlton. But, right now, it's a long season. People are just settling in for a long run. They're
settling in for a long run. The pitch hit deep. Right field. Back to the wall. He caught it. He caught it at the up against the wall. It's all fair and level war when you watch the way Mookie Betts was doing his thing in the World Series last year. It's all fair and level war. Big C, there's a lunar eclipse tomorrow, and they're talking about the lunar eclipse. A lot of people can hide and go outside and watch the sky. I just ask everyone, if you're going to watch the lunar eclipse, make sure you think about Big C Sports, because we like to bring in the universe. Are you going to be watching the eclipse, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I think it's more important to ask if the Lakers are going to be watching that lunar eclipse. Can they be able to block out the sun tonight, because they were playing a little soft against them last time. And if they play that way again, they're going to have a lunar eclipse over them.
Yeah, if I hit all 6 numbers, I would have had $500 million in the lottery. It's all fair and level war. Maybe I'll hit it tonight. There's one more thing I want to touch on before we close out today's show. And again, I wish everybody nothing but the best playing sports and staying healthy. It's all fair and level war. The great Mike Tyson, they have a documentary on Mike Tyson. It's called The Knockout Documentary, Big C. It's a 2-part series, and it premieres on ABC. Mike Tyson, a lot like the great, when you think about George Foreman, Big C, these are boxers that were automatically iconic must-see TV when they were in the boxing ring. The George Foreman grill has made him more, I guess, as more famous, maybe not as famous, but famous still outside of the ring. And then Mike Tyson with his lemonade thing. But these are guys that at one point in time, they were not very well liked by mainstream media. Now they're getting commercials and documentaries, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, people like to find out as much as they can about individuals. They were two of the most fearful men in the world when they were heavyweight champions of the world. And they really did not care much for the media. These were guys who went to work like everybody else, and that's all they thought they had to do.
Yeah.
They didn't grow up in an age where everybody wanted to have a social media account, Charlton, and always in front of the press.
Yeah.
They grew up in a day where blacks were not treated fairly in the media, especially George Foreman, Charlton, and they always wanted to make you smaller than what you were mentally.
Yeah.
And so they shied away from the media, Charlton. And now in mainstream, as you said about George Foreman, he was a guy who became more famous about his George Foreman grill and actually made more money off of that than he made in the boxing ring. And Mike Tyson has had a renaissance of life, Charlton, after his boxing career.
Yeah, I remember going to a gym in Hayward when I was a young boy, and George Foreman asked my brother to get in the ring and fight him. My brother was 12. He said no. He was a very smart brother. It's all fair and level war. I hope everybody has success tonight. Make sure whatever you do that you rise and you shine. Big C, back in the day, there's a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man, and he would always tell Ali, float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. Rumble, young man, rumble with all you've got to use. How can you lose, Big C? What are you looking forward to in this boys' universe?
Well, Charlton, there's a battle tonight in the Valley of the Sun in the NBA, and it's going to be like the Wizard of Oz. We're gonna find out if the Tin Man saw the Wizard, Charlton, and he can reverse that 13 to a 31 tonight and help his hapless Lakers to a win.
Yeah.
Once again, I want to thank our frontline healthcare workers, our nurses, doctors, and first responders. They're always there with those Band-Aids to cover up those wounds.
Like the great Rod Stewart, LeBron James, and Anthony Davis said, tonight could be your night too. when you rise and shine every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide when you follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And them good old boys down south, as my mom always says, is never ever an excuse for racism or domestic violence. If you know any man, woman, or child going through that garbage, please pick up the phone and ask for help, because no man, woman, or child should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.